Hello, YouTubers. Nice to see you. Happy Easter, everybody. This is just a video, just a bit of a fun video. When I was using the Discogs website, filing some records there, I noticed that there was a little button called Random Item, and if you click it, the website, the Discogs website, chooses a random item from your collection, the collection that you have been writing into Discogs, And so I thought, well, yeah, that could be an idea for a video. So I thought, okay, let's press 10 times on this random item button and see what the result will be. Yeah. So, let's do it.
Well, this is a screenshot on my Discogs website, where I've been, writing in most of my record purchases for the last couple of years, and also bit by bit I've been also writing in my old records that I have for a long time. So my whole collection isn't available in this on this website, in my account on Discogs. But I think I have probably 4,500 records that I have marked that I own. Anyway, I mainly use it as a way to file records, as well as I file records in an old Excel document. Or Excel is no, document is not the right word, but you know what I mean. And why do I do that? Well, because I'm a very sick man. No, not really. Because I just find it interesting to write down what I have. I've always been like that. When I started buying records and started writing down what I had, that was long before I even had a computer, my first computer. So I wrote down everything on cards, these cards in card boxes, and I had loads of boxes back then. No wonder how many boxes I would have today if I had continued doing like that. Anyway, but I found this nice little button here, random item, in which if I click it, it brings out a random record from my collection. So I thought, let's have some fun. I'm going to click it, see if I can get hold of it rather quickly, and say a few words what I think about it. Siv-Inger, oh yeah, Siv-Inger, Columbia, 1973.
Yeah, Siv-Inger. The lovely Siv-Inger Svensson, Swedish singer. I mean, I can't imagine anybody looking more like the ideal Swedish girl than she. She had a big breakthrough in the early 70s, this is her first LP. It's from 1973, recorded in EMI studio for EMI Columbia. You don't find it that easily, but quite shortly after she had her breakthrough in Sweden, she did what many other Swedish female singers did back then. She went to Germany, and if she had a quite minor, smaller, nicer breakthrough here in Sweden, she became a smash hit in Germany, where she is still regarded as a very highly regarded singer, and I think she's fairly active there as an artist. But here in Sweden, she is sadly a bit forgotten. Some weeks ago, I saw a lot of German Siv-Inger's singles on an auction site, and I thought, well, you never see those here, so this would be very interesting. But there was another very eager Siv-Inger collector who put out high bids on every single. So no, I'm sorry, no, I can't. I wish I could, but I can't. Lovely singer, nice soprano, very clear voice. Um, all in all, a very pleasant singer, and yeah, I think that's what I have to say about her. I like her a lot.
That was that. Okay, let's have a look at another random pick then, random item. Rod Stewart, Atlantic Crossing.
Atlantic Crossing. I think this was a record that you could find in almost everybody's home back in the 70s. On Warner Brothers from 1970, boobly boobly boo, 75. And a record with an iconic sleeve crossing the Atlantic with his gigantic flares and so on. And this record contains a fast side and a slow side, with all the fast songs on one side and all the ballads on the other side. Not sure really how that works, because I think you need variation in tempo and in style on an album if you have all this fast on one side. Well, I shouldn't talk because this was a major commercial success, so I shouldn't really have any opinion, but just my thought. The most famous song is the final song on this album, Sailing, by Gavin Sutherland, originally done by the Sutherland brothers. But my favorite on this album is the ballad It's Not the Spotlight, by Barry Goldberg and Jared Goffin. And that song is the main reason why I bought this album, because I really didn't really feel any urge to have it. Yeah, Rod Stewart, I have nothing against him, but when I saw him when I was young, I was a bit annoyed by his, let's say, mannerism. I had more difficulties accepting weird mannerisms back then than I have today, when I've grown older and more mellow, so to speak. I don't really know what he's doing nowadays. Well, hasn't he been doing these American songbook albums? Like, it seems like that's something that everybody has to do nowadays, even though, wasn't it enough with Ella Fitzgerald and her version of American songbook? Do we need any other versions? Because you can't top them, can you? Yeah, well, even Bob Dylan has been into the American songbook lately. Well, never mind. I heard a fine comment by Ron Sexsmith on a radio concert in Swedish radio in the late, it must have been the late 90s. And he said, he talked about the song Secret Heart that he was going to sing. And he said, well, it seems like a song that it's obligatory for me to sing. And other artists have been doing it as well. Rod Stewart has done it. And then he paused a bit and he said, he sings rather raspy now, doesn't he? And he said, I wish he had sung it in his prime. And this could represent his prime years. Rod Stewart, Atlantic Crossing.
Okay, next. Johannes Brahms, Symphony No. 2 in D major, Opus 73 from 1956.
Yeah. Johannes Brahms, Symphony No. 2 in D major, Opus 73. Alfred Wallenstein conducting the Los Angeles Philharmonic Orchestra. And then, this is what's so weird with this record, analysis by Thomas Sherman. This is a double album from 1956, issued by the Music Appreciation Records, a branch of Book of the Month Club, Incorporated. So, yeah, this is something for the culture lovers. And we have the whole piece of music on one 12-inch record like this. Yeah, fair enough. It's a mono, of course, because this is back in the days of mono, before stereo on record. But then the second second record in this album, that's a 10-inch record. And what do we have there? Well, we have an oral analysis of the music you've just heard. It's like a lecture about the classical piece of music that you just heard on the other album. I mean, isn't that amazing? Well, I have to say, I applaud it, because sometimes it's like they want to not just have you listen to the music and enjoy it, but also actually learn about it and analyze it. But I've never seen the analyze being delivered together with a piece of art that's being analyzed. So I found this online and in an auction, and another record with another composer presented in the same manner, and I don't know how common these are. I make a guess that they were a bit of a luxury item back then, but it's a real funny issue of classical music, with the music and on one record and some guy giving a lecture about the action music you heard on the other record.
Okay,
it's funny.
Let's look at another random item. Oh! Älgarnas trädgård. Framtiden är ett svävande skepp förankrat i forntiden.
Yeah. Älgarnas trädgård. The Garden of the Elks. Framtiden är ett svävande skepp förankrat i forntiden. The future is a hovering ship anchored in the past, or something like that. I mean, it's not perfect. This is a reissue, as I said, of a it's often regarded as some sort of Swedish prog rock masterpiece from 1972, issued by Silence, by the group Älgarnas trädgård. And this is a reissue from 2015 by Subliminal Sounds. The original is very difficult to get hold of. I was really curious on this because I've read a lot about it, but I hadn't heard it. So when this reissue was announced, I made sure I was there to get the copy. It is mind-blowing music that can really, also challenging. If you're not willing to be challenged in your musical mind, then this might not be for you. And as I said, it was originally recorded in 1972, so and a record that I think is fairly collectible, not just in Sweden, but also by collectors of international progressive rock. So glad this came up.
Okay, another random item. Oh, Thorleifs!
Yeah, Thorleifs. När dina ögon ler. I refer to the video I made about this album if you want to know more.
Don Partridge, Street Harvest.
Don Partridge, the king of the buskers. Well, I think most of us recognize him from the late 60s, especially when we talk about international recognition. He had hits with, what was the name of it? Rosie. Even back then, he was very active in Sweden. He came to Sweden to play, both in the street as a busker. And this caused a bit of an interest, because it wasn't really legal for street performers, for buskers to play out in the streets. And there was new law that permitted buskers to play, well, of course there were rules on how to play and so on, but that law, as has been named after Don Partridge, was called Lex Partridge. So all the buskers of the world, at least those in Sweden, well, all those in Sweden, they should say thank you and bow their heads to Don Partridge. I'm sure they already know because he is probably the most famous busker of all time. And he was active and living in Sweden for many years. He made one album in 1973 called Don Partridge and Friends. Together, well, one side there was together. Well, he played on his own in the street probably, and on the other side of the record, he was joined by the studio elite of Sweden back then. This is a later album, and it's from 1982. It was recorded in Sweden, in Örebro and in Stockholm for the record label Europa Film. And let's see. Well, we've got the drummers like Rolf Alex, violin player Anders Dahl, steel guitar player Janne Lindgren, flutist Torbjörn Eklund, accordion player Hans Mutas, Nysse Nyström on the mandolin. So, Rosa Grönning, Agneta Olsson doing backup vocals. And not the highest elite, really, but still some really great backup musicians. So they obviously put both effort and money into this album. I don't think it sold that well. I think he returned more or less full time to the busking after this. I'm not sure. I think that he made one more album many years later, before he passed away. I think he passed away in 2010 or something like that. I got a great respect for him. I like the way he plays his songs, both his own and others. My favorite recording of him is his live recording from Skansen, Stockholm, 1968, from the Oppa album, where he makes a very great version of Keep Your Hands Off Her. I have great respect for this guy, so glad to talk about him.
Another random item. Bernt Dahlbeck, God Juli. Yeah, well, why not? Why not?
Bernt Dahlbeck show with or med Yngve Forssells orkester. Yngve Forssells was a dance band from Umeå, northern Sweden, active for many years, and they served as a backup group to this live show, recorded at Restaurant Trädgården in Gothenburg around Christmas of 1976, where he both plays some of his old songs from the years with Gurun Show. He was the leader of the Swedish, I talked about them before, like a Swedish equivalent of Spike Jones and the City Slickers, or perhaps the Bonzo Dog Band, a bit like that. That's Gurun Show. But he later became a solo artist and a very active freelancing artist. He made loads of solo albums, but also appeared on many albums, many children albums where he lended out his voice or did some singing. In the early 70s, when EMI was distributing or taking care of the Disney-related recordings in Sweden, he often sang on them or did voices in the dubbings. I think we could hear him on the Robin Hood and also the Jungle Book Volume 2. Stuff like that. This is from 1976. It was issued in 77 though. Alas, he died a year later in 1978. I think from brain cancer, very fast. He had just released his last album, Warning That Man Is Crazy. Varning, den mannen är galen. Great fun. At his best.
Another random item picked by Discogs. Bob Newhart, The Button-Down Mind Strikes Back.
I'm very happy that this album turned up. Bob Newhart is one of my favorite American comedians. I think his his phone monologues when he talks to somebody on the phone, they are amazing, and the way he delivers all this comedy with a straight, a bit worried face. It's comedy at its very best. There aren't that many comedians of this quality nowadays. Perhaps because we don't really want them anymore. We have lost our sense of humor. This is I think I've got most of Bob Newhart's albums from the 1960s. This is the first one though that I bought, and I bought it because I was curious, and then I recognized some numbers that had been translated to Swedish and performed by Swedish comedians, like the driving instructor is not on this album, but that one is a monologue that has been famous in Swedish too, but by the Swedish comedian called Gustav Lindstedt. But yeah, I never get tired of these. Good quality lasts forever, and I think he's still around. Not sure if he's that active, but he's been active quite lately, though. Old guy now. Okay, Bob Newhart for the win. Yeah.
Okay, let's take two more. Two more. Danny Kaye and Louis Armstrong, The Five Pennies Volume 2. It's an EP. Yeah, well, why not?
Yeah, I felt that I didn't really want to go into my vinyl single boxes and dig, because it would take more time and I'm a bit lazy. But since I've been filing records on Discogs these last couple of days, one of the records I filed was The Five Pennies by Danny Kaye and Louis Armstrong, Volume 2, and as a bonus I filed number 1, 2, 1, 2, the number 1 as well, I should say that. Both on London label, Swedish pressings. And I remember when I was a kid, I saw lots of films by Danny Kaye, and I loved his comedy style, his performing style. And I've been a great fan of Louis Armstrong too, even though I really prefer the early jazz material from the, well, mid-20s up until the mid-30s. But still, he became more of a family all-round performer later. But he never really left the jazz, but he was more inspiring in his younger days. But still, lots of respect for both Danny Kaye and for Louis Armstrong. Danny Kaye often appeared in Swedish television, though. I remember that. He wasn't some sort of ambassador for, was it UNICEF or UN or something like that? And often appeared on Swedish chat shows. And he was just so witty. And yeah. So even if I don't really collect Danny Kaye's records, I like him as an artist, but I don't really feel like listening to his records. But I wouldn't mind watch one of these movies that he made back in the, was it 1940s? I haven't seen them for 30 years or so it would be fun to watch again sometime when I have some time for that, and time and peace.
Okay, let's do the last one here. Sven-Ingvars Bästa of the Svensk-American label from 1967.
Yeah, Sven-Ingvars, led by Sven-Erik Magnusson, the great singer, who passed away a couple of years ago, and I thought, well, that's the end of Sven-Ingvars, of course, because he was the only remaining original member, but no, they're still out because his son, Oskar Magnusson, has taken over the group and is doing it really good. And they issued a vinyl single just, I think, a month or two ago, and it was great. I've listened to it, and I mean, it's not exactly like Sven-Ingvars, the old style, but it has connections with the old style anyway, because Sven-Ingvars always developed and became more and more modern, or I think they stayed in touch with the current time, even though they also allowed themselves to mature as artists and human beings. Yeah, this is a lovely. Yeah, to agree, this is a lovely sleeve. This is a compilation album from the material that they made for the record label Svensk American in the late 60s. I think they were there at 66 to 68 for a short while. First, they started on Philips, had great success on that label, and then the American singer Larry Finnegan, you know, the one with "Dear One," da, 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 da. He came to Sweden and he realized that he was bigger in Sweden than he was in the United States. So I thought, okay, good. So he started a record label called Svensk American, Swedish American, Svensk American, and he did a very smart thing. He signed up probably the most popular Swedish group at the time, Sven-Ingvars. Great success from the very start. They had loads of hits before on Philips, but even more on Svensk American. They did a big mistake though. They decided they would make a movie. They thought they were Beatles. And the movie was a total failure and they lost all their money and they had to start all over again. And by then, Larry Finnegan had lost interest in this record label. I think by 1970, the label Svensk American was gone from the market. He died a couple of years later, though. But Sven-Ingvars kept on playing and had many ups and downs in their career, but as I said, still going strong. And that's impressive by a band that started back in 1956, 63 years ago. Yeah. Okay, I hope some of you out there found this somewhat interesting. Thank you for watching and bye bye.